Tuesday, the Michigan Political History Society will pay tribute to Bill Milliken, Michigan's longest-serving governor. From 1969 to 1983, 14 years in all, he was at the helm of state government. The special event honoring him will take place at the Laurel Manor in Livonia. With that in mind, I traveled here to Traverse City, the lifelong home of Governor Milliken. At age 86, what does he think of America's historic presidential election and the current economic situation facing America and in particular the state of Michigan? And for the first time ever, he reveals how he cast his ballot. Senior statesman Bill Milliken speaks his mind today in my exclusive interview. It's Sunday, November the 16th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight on the News. Governor, we're sitting down just a few days after the most historic presidential election that any of us can remember. What is your reaction to what you've just witnessed?
My reaction was one of great excitement and thankfulness that he had been successful. I think it is a remarkable thing that he has accomplished. It's a remarkable thing because it is reverberating all over the world now, in Europe, in Africa, across the globe, one of enormous excitement and enthusiasm and the feeling that at long last America is coming back from a period when our relationships abroad could not have been worse in many respects. So I was very pleased. By no means is the racial factor totally disappeared with the election of Barack Obama. But I think we have made, as a result of this election, an African American now the President of the United States. That's sending the message throughout our country. And I anticipate nothing but improvement and hopefully recovery in the whole area of race relations.
In the primary, you endorsed Senator John McCain, but you softened on that endorsement, correct?
Well, first of all, I have had great respect for John McCain. He had the reputation of being a straightforward, open, candid, even called a maverick, even in challenging his own party and challenging people within his party. And that's why I endorsed him in the Republican primary. I felt that he was head and shoulders above anyone else who was running against him. And then, unfortunately, I think he began, as soon as he got the nomination, he began to take a whole new approach in his pursuit of the presidency. And I became quite disappointed. And I indicated that on a number of occasions publicly. I still have enormous respect for him as an individual, and given his background and his status as a hero and a genuine hero, I do have respect for him in that way, but I think he ran an unfortunate campaign, and I regret that.
What disappointed you most in terms of watching John McCain's campaign? Was it his maybe pandering too much to the conservative wing of the Republican Party, or was it his selection of Sarah Palin as his running mate, or was it a combination of all of these things?
Well, I would say it was a combination of all of them. I felt the selection of his vice presidential nominee, Sarah Palin, was an unfortunate selection. I felt that she did not have the background, did not have the experience, and one had only to ask the question, is she prepared to assume the presidency if something, God forbid, were to happen to the president himself? And I was dismayed by that prospect. She's a very quite articulate person. She's a very appealing person on the campaign trail, but she lacked the background and the experience that I felt was so important, critically important in the case of running with John McCain, who was some 70 years old. Anything could have happened. Tragically, could have happened. And I felt that, therefore, it did not show the best judgment on the part of the senator. There were other factors that influenced my thinking in the course of the campaign. I felt in some respects it was quite a negative campaign. Here we are facing probably the most critical challenges that we've known in decades, if not much longer than that, in the breakdown of our economy. And the Senator McCain did not deal directly and forthrightly with that. He was highly critical of Senator Obama in ways that I felt were derogatory and negative and extremely unfortunate. But as you can gather, I came, as I observed this campaign, I came to believe that Senator McCain did not live up to his potentials, and I regretted that very much.
So, Governor, would it be safe to make the assumption that you voted for Senator Barack Obama?
I did not make any public endorsements, but I will tell you directly and honestly that I voted. I voted for Senator Obama for president. And I have no regrets about having done that. I felt that he was far and away, as the campaign unfolded and neared the end, he was far and away the best person to lead this country in very critical and dangerous times.
So where does the Republican Party go from here? Has it lost its way?
Let me say, first of all, Chuck, I believe strongly in a two-party system. I believe, for the sake of our country, that we need two vital, strong, responsible parties. And I've tried in every way, all during the time that I served as governor for the 14 years, Republican Party, to make it a very responsible and good party and in the service of the people of this state. And I still believe that way. I think now the Republican Party has some distance to go in rebuilding itself, and I hope very much that as a result of this election just concluded, that the party will not take a further turn to the right. It went too far to the right, in my opinion, during the course of this campaign. John McCain allowed it to go in that direction, and I felt in some respects irresponsibly. But I hope now that the Republican Party will rebuild itself, will attempt to be a broad-based umbrella type party that will include many factions and many elements and many philosophies within our party. That's the only way we can be a strong and vibrant and successful party. So it remains to be seen whether we will go in that direction. But I remain very hopeful, and I'm going to do everything I can to help the party come back, because it is in a state of flux at the moment, if not a state of near disaster.
Any chance you're thinking about leaving the Republican Party? You know, there are some out here who would probably just say, oh, Bill Milliken is just a closet Democrat.
I will restate my strong conviction to you again that I believe in a strong two-party system, and I'm going to do everything I can to make my party a growing and responsible and strong political entity. I believe it can be, and I'm going to do what I can to help it move in that direction.
When Spotlight returns, Governor Milliken talks about Governor Granholm, the future of Michigan, and partisan politics. We'll be right back. This election had a lot of surprises, not just at the national level, but also here in the state of Michigan. What shocked you the most here in this state?
Well, I was totally surprised by the Supreme Court race. One could only, based upon the past and logic, expect that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Taylor, would have taken that, based upon his background, his long service, his position as Chief Judge, and based on the fact that he had the incumbency on the ballot, the incumbency listing. But I was astounded that he lost. The court itself began to take a very conservative and I felt inappropriate direction. I think another thing that is wrong in connection with the Supreme Court, we nominate, the political parties nominate candidates for the Supreme Court, and then we assume that they will run in a nonpartisan election. That's absolutely absurd. We need to do away with that system.
Governor, what are your thoughts as you watch the state of Michigan in terms of this economy, the auto industry, which you've spent so much time defending and protecting and working with? Will the state survive this?
It's going to be a very difficult struggle. I think a more serious and critical struggle than we have known in all of the time that I have served and had served in public office. But I have every expectation and hope that with the assistance now that we are seeing in the offing of the federal government to help the automobile industry get through this critical moment in its existence, I have great hopes that and expectations that that industry ultimately and finally will come around and be highly competitive across the globe. But it's a tough struggle ahead, and I know that, and I think we all know that in our state.
You're Michigan's longest serving governor. What do you think of the leadership of the current governor, Jennifer Granholm?
I recognize, first of all, that Governor Granholm has had a very difficult and challenging time of it in our state. She's had a legislature that has not always been cooperating with her, and I suppose it can be said that she has not always cooperated with the legislature. But I have a good deal of respect for Governor Granholm. I think she's a very bright and very articulate person. I think she's highly motivated. I think she's trying very hard to do a good job. But it hasn't been easy. It's not easy when you're dealing with a legislature that may not always be on your side, that may not always be willing to work with you. But I have a good deal of respect for her, and I wish her well. And I've maintained a fairly close relationship and contact with her.
Governor, many people believe America has become too partisan. If you agree with that, how do we create more bipartisanship in America and in the state of Michigan?
I think excessive partisanship in this country on the part both of Democrats and certainly in the course of this election just ended has been one of the major problems that we've confronted in the United States. We need desperately, I think, to assume a more nonpartisan stance on the part of candidates for elective office in each political party. And this last campaign is a perfect demonstration of how much can go wrong when we are overly partisan in terms of our candidates and the positions they've taken. I am highly encouraged by the statements that President-elect Obama has made in this connection. He's indicated that he intends to include in his administration, in his cabinet, in his important positions, administrative positions, not only Democrats, but Republicans and independents, and nonpartisans. And I think that is a very healthy sign for the future of our country. And that needs to be applied as well in the state of Michigan. We saw a legislature and a governor who were constantly at odds in the last several years, and it was a playing of a partisan card that was unfortunate in terms of the welfare of the people of our state, and that should come to an end, and it should come to an end now. There is a place for partisan politics. That's the way we nominate men and women for political office. But there is also an important factor that we need to consider, and I think the people of this state have made it clear time and again that they are sick and tired of excessive partisanship, the backbiting that goes on at the expense of the public welfare, and that should stop.
A few years ago, I was on Mackinac Island when you spoke to the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce, and they gave you a standing ovation for your remarks. Much of it was talking about the need for us to become less partisan. Do you think people have taken your advice?
I see some encouraging signs in that direction, but I think we still have a long way to go. I think, if anything, the people in the course of this campaign have sent that message to their elected officials. And it is a hopeful sign, I believe, that some of those officials are repeating themselves the urgency of trying to deal with problems on their merits and not simply from the point of view of being a Democrat or a Republican. That's a hopeful sign for the future. And I'm encouraged, and I feel sanguine about it.
Coming up, the man who is often referred to as the Green Governor talks about our environment and whether or not we're doing a good job at protecting it. We'll be back with more of my exclusive interview right after this commercial break. We hope you stay with us. During your leadership years in the state of Michigan, you were coined the Green Governor. From where you sit today, how well are we protecting our environment here in America and in the state of Michigan?
Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. We still have a need to recognize in this country the fact that we, in fact, do have global warming. And that is one of the great challenges of our century. To deal with that, to do it courageously and effectively, and to do it quickly. And I think Senator Obama, now the president, understands that, and I think we can and will expect to see some real progress in that direction.
What do you think of the two proposals, Proposal 1 and Proposal 2, that just passed here in this state?
I was happy with both of them. I was strongly in support of each of them. I was surprised that we had an affirmative response on the part of the people of Michigan to each one of them. It was a great moment, in my opinion, in Michigan, that the people of Michigan had the foresight and the wisdom and the judgment to approve each of those ballot proposals.
When Spotlight returns, Governor Milliken talks about the tribute he'll receive this week in Livonia. You're going to be honored in just a few days in Livonia, Michigan, down in our neck of the woods. And they're going to hopefully raise a lot of money for the Michigan Political History Society. Talk a little bit about that and why it was important for you to be able to leave up north here and come down to southeast Michigan for a few days for this particular cause.
Well, first of all, I have great respect and admiration for the Michigan Political History Society. I think it's serving a very worthwhile cause in Michigan and keeping alive our history and our past as a guide for the future. I was also influenced by the fact that one of the reasons they invited me to come was it could be used as a fundraiser for them. And I felt strongly enough about the work of the society, what it has done in the past and what it will do in the future, to accept, if for no other reason, that alone, to go down and participate. I feel honored that they would ask me and honor me in that way, but I hope they have a very successful night as well in furthering their own activities on the behalf of all of the people of Michigan.
Governor Milliken, you're 86 now.
I think there was a serious mistake in my birth certificate. Actually, it's some 23 or 5 years. If you believe that, you will believe anything.
How would you like to be remembered?
Well, that's a good question and a very difficult question. But I would say that I would hope that I would be remembered as a governor of this state, as someone who tried to do the right thing, who tried to advance the cause of racial equality in our state, who tried to head a government that dealt honestly and openly and fairly with every person in this state, and who tried to put intense partisanship aside to do what I felt was in the best interests of Michigan as a whole. If I can have somewhat of that reputation as a governor, having served longer than any other governor in state history, I will be totally content.
Governor, thank you for sitting down with me here at your home in Traverse City. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Chuck.
For more information about the Michigan Political History Society tribute to Governor William G. Milliken this Tuesday at the Laurel Manor in Livonia, call 517-485-9127. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.